Welcome to Wading into Retirement. In today's episode, we talk through our attempt to renew our residency in Mexico. Welcome back, everyone. It's Mike
and Laura
here from Wading into Retirement. And today we're going to talk about our recent escapades, I will call them follies, in attempting to renew our Mexican residency.
Yes, we had a very quick trip to San Miguel. I'm starting to feel like it's our home. And we were both able to get only a few days off of work because we had a project coming to fruition at the beginning of December, and we both had to be on site for a number of weeks. So it was a very quick flying trip.
It was.
Literally.
It was. So what we did is, because we know sometimes things don't go as planned in Mexico, and because Mike is a planner, we planned to have our appointment on a Monday morning. And Tuesday was kind of a float day for us, and then we were flying back home on Wednesday. So we gave ourselves one extra day to kind of accomplish our task of renewing our residency in the event something went wrong. And as you can tell by the T's, something went wrong.
Yes, more than a few somethings went wrong. And anyway, yes, we'll get to that. But yes,
So
the best laid plans of Michael and Laura.
Let's start with day one.
Yes.
So in Mexico now, you can make an appointment at the INM office so that you don't have to stand in a line and do that sort of thing. So we actually had an appointment for 9 o'clock on the Monday morning.
Mine was for 9. I think yours was for 9:30. I was to go in first.
Yes, so you did go in first. And as I'm standing outside, I'm getting all these panic texts that things are not going well for Laura. Now, Laura's was a little more complicated than mine because she had a name change due to the wedding.
Yes.
So she comes, well, you actually didn't come back out. I got called in because it was my turn. And she's sitting there shaking her head and in the waiting room, and things just did not go well for you.
No, they didn't. So I submitted all my paperwork, and they're very, very good, but they're very formal. And there was a few extra papers that had been previously needed that maybe didn't need it, or maybe the move was in a certain area of the sky and it wasn't needed that day. So they quickly pulled those out. And then she informed them that I needed to have 2 appointments and that they couldn't do anything more for me today because I had the name change. To further complicate it, they decided that it was going to take 5 days to do the name change, at which time, once I got that completed, then I could move on to step 2. And of course, we didn't have 5 days. We hadn't been told it was 5 days. And actually, I think the expectation is we only needed the 1 appointment and it would be done all together. So that didn't go well.
Yeah. So we did have a facilitator. We had paid somebody to help us out with all the paperwork. I don't know if this was the first time that she was doing a name change as well as a renewal at the same time, but she had done what she thought was right.
Yes, 100%.
But they apparently had kind of changed the rules of the game on her because they were looking for things that they had not looked for in the past. So it turned out that going onto their website, the facilitator was able to get you an appointment for Tuesday to come back, get you 2 appointments, I should say, so that you could continue on your journey of renewing your residency.
Yes, which was no small feat because their site kept crashing. And it kept crashing for everybody, including people like Michael, who were right after me. So there was a mass influx of people trying to book subsequent appointments because they basically said, no more appointments. today. We can't
Yeah.
get anything done.
So they had systems issues. So I get up to the kiosk. There's, I don't know, I think there was 4 immigration agents working. I go up to the one that I was sent to. And they're just staring at their screen and they're laughing and they're saying, you know, it's spinning.
Spinning wheel.
It's
Yes.
spinning. And they were, you know, they were in good spirits. But
Well, they called too. They made a couple of phone calls
Yeah.
to see if it was the Interact machine, and then was it just this one machine, or was it all 4 of the machines? And then I think they talked to somebody who said it was actually everybody's machine.
so the lady beside me was further along in her journey with her appointment, and she just had to pay, but it would not take any of her cards, and she tried multiple cards, and it was all related to the internet problem. So when it got to my chance to actually pay, they told me to try the card, but they didn't have high hopes on it. But mine actually went through. So I was very fortunate. I left there on the Monday, day 1, renewed, but they couldn't print my card right away. Okay, well, that wasn't so bad. So they said, well, why don't you just call back at 1 o'clock and we'll see if our printer is back up working, or the system, the printer part of the system would be working. So we went back, we had lunch. The facilitator called and said, I'm going to come pick you up again. We'll drive down there and we'll see if we can get your card. So I go back, wait in line again, go in again, and I get my card. So mine was all done in one day, although it took 2 trips and it did consume
The entire
basically
day.
the entire day.
Yes.
But we kind of come to expect that.
Yes.
Even though we expect things are going to take longer and we plan for them, when it does happen that it doesn't seem to go smoothly, it's still very frustrating
Unsettling.
/ stressful.
Well, and then it was like, okay, so if this is going to happen, should we then delay going back to Canada by another day? Because we do have the ability to reschedule our flights. We did buy those types of tickets, thank goodness, Michael, our planner. And I was afraid that it was going to be at least 2, if not 3 days. Because again, even though I had 2 appointments, you just never know what that's going to look like.
So we got home on the Monday night. We rescheduled our flight to Thursday,
Yes.
which meant that Laura would have Tuesday and Wednesday now in order to get her immigration process completed. So Tuesday morning comes, she heads back in to try the whole thing over again. And she had even more struggles. Why don't you tell us what happened Tuesday?
So they were very, very nice. And I felt bad for our facilitator because we went in with a very positive viewpoint. And we were just hoping, she had very much stressed that I had to go back this week. And again, we were told we only had the month of December to get mine renewed and the extra 5 days. And then with the name change, the system was up, but not working the best. So they did the first part of the name change. And then again, kind of all hell broke loose with that idea. So because of my name change, they were able to do that. So that was good. And we were happy with that. But the corp, and I can never say it properly, we argue on how to pronounce that, had to also be changed because my initials had changed. And I don't think anywhere in the saga did I know that, because it's like a number. So
I should break in there and explain what the quirp is.
yes, you should.
So when you get a residency card, it has your picture on it. It looks like a driver's license, basically. You are assigned a corp number, and that's kind of like your Mexican financial number. So it allows you to open bank accounts and do transactions and things like that. So in Canada, it's like our social security number. In the US, it's like, can't think of the name of it now. Just lost my train of thought.
Well, here it's our social insurance number, and in the
Oh,
US,
in the US,
it's
it's
the
social security. Right. So I said the US one. So yeah, that you get this corp number. So we both had a corp number because we are
Yes.
temporary residents. We just were renewing for 3 years.
Yes.
But as you said, because of your name change, for some reason that meant you needed a new corp number.
Yes.
That was not anticipated.
And that kind of played in, I think, to the 5 days. So then they felt that I couldn't get the card at all. And of course, I needed it in order to leave the country, to have it stamped, and then for my reentry, or my time frame went right back to 0. So after much hemming and hawing, and the explanation, our facilitator was really very, very good, very, very knowledgeable, as well as very calm in the face of all of this adversity. And they agreed to process my card, but without the number. So mine is missing its number, and we didn't know how that was going to feature in leaving the country. But then I got into another hurdle. So once again, their banking system crashed. So you can only pay with debit or credit, and there's no cash, and they just said, you're just going to have to keep coming back, maybe tomorrow. And I was like, oh my goodness, this isn't going to fly. This is just not. We have 1 day left, and that's when actually our facilitator stepped in and said, well, is there any way that we can pay through a bank? And of course, I'm frantically trying to get in touch with you, like, how much cash do I have on me, and the whole 9 yards. So they agreed to print off a form to take to a local bank for us to be able to pay it. So we decided to do that, but we had to hurry and get back in because, of course, they close really. They take their last appointments at 1 o'clock. So our facilitator and I jump in her car, go to her bank, and they won't take my credit card at their bank because I'm not their bank customer. So I frankly, again, texted Michael and said, how much cash do we have on? And Michael, the planner, always has plenty. So actually, our facilitator ended up paying for my renewal
At the bank.
At the bank, because that was the only way that they could get it to go through. And we paid for it. They filled out the paper. We had to go through the paper like 3 times. There's like 3 copies of it. You initial them, make sure that it's all copacetic, and then we had to race back, submit it to them, and wait and submit to them, and then it was all good to go.
So yeah, then I just paid the facilitator back in cash. So we were lucky on a couple fronts there.
Yes.
One, that she actually had the money on her to be able to pay for it on our behalf at the bank.
Yes, definitely.
The other part of the story that you kind of glossed over is one of the options that they were pushing you for was they were going to give you an exit visa.
Yes.
So
that's
that
true.
you could leave the country without your residency and get back in without your residency, and then we could try this again in 10 days as an example.
Yes.
Which wasn't something we wanted to do at all. That was a scary option anyways.
It was. Well, I think scary on a couple of fronts because I knew that I had to be working on site for my job. So that was going to be really hard to be able to do. And then, of course, they're closed over Christmas. So, yeah, that was kind of like, okay, is this going to be a one and done? And we talked about, okay, if I don't get mine and I do end up having to leave the country because we're married, can I go for it at another time? But really, it has been quite an event. And it's been an investment for us. We've had several trips. We've had to take time off of work. We've gone to the consulate here. We've spent money there. So we didn't really want to do that.
The thought of you losing all that and going back to step one wasn't that palatable. So in the end, we left there on the Tuesday. Or you left there Tuesday.
Was it Tuesday?
It was Tuesday.
Oh, Tuesday.
You left
like
there on the
Wednesday.
Tuesday with card in hand, but without a QURP number.
Yes.
So this means the next time we go back and we are less stressed, you still have another appointment you need to make to
Yes.
go get a QURP number and another card printed with this QURP number on it.
And our facilitator did say, because I have paid for the 3 years, I
That
could
you
wait
and just
and
do
just
it.
do it then.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I want to dance with the devil on that. I almost feel like I should just get it done and over with, because they were not happy really issuing it. They were lovely though, and I found that they were really good. And ironically enough, and this is sort of a side note, they're very formal, and it is a very formal process. People are quite ecstatic to get their cards and to get their citizenship. There's a lot of smiles, a lot of photography. You know, when people get their cards, it is kind of a joyous atmosphere. And I was feeling very disheartened that I wasn't going to be able to get mine. So I was glad to be able to leave with it, but I would feel better if I had it all.
Had it all figured out, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a quick trip. It was full of stress. Every day was something new, and like I said, I had to go back twice on Monday. You went back twice on Tuesday. But we, you know, mission accomplished on the trip for the most part. But it never ceases to amaze me, even though I get in my mind things are never going to be simple there, and they're going to take longer than usual. That is so true.
Oh, 100%. Well, even I was going to say, maybe this is a different episode, but it might be worth adding on this one, is the visa when we ate at Hank's.
Yeah.
So a little side note, we love to go to Hank's. There's so many good restaurants. We're trying to feature one each time we go because the food is just amazing. I don't think we've ever had actually a bad meal, ever. Well, you did when you got your bit of your tummy bug, but you know, really and truly, we've had the best dining experiences across the board in every trip.
But the issue that we had there is, and this was not a Mexico issue at all.
No, not
Nothing
at
to
all.
do with the Mexican government. I've used my credit card in Mexico every time we've gone there. I've never let them know that I'm going there. We've been there for 30 days at a time. There's never been an issue. But this one particular time, the first time I was using it in Mexico, I have it connected to my iPhone so I can just tap with my phone. That clicked some sort of fraud thing in the banking system, Royal Bank of Canada.
Yes.
Which basically disabled my credit card. So yeah, I thought, well, that's weird. So then I put the actual physical card into the machine and I put my PIN in and it refuses that. We didn't have any cash on us, so there's a little bit of a panic.
And I didn't want to use mine because if we were going to have to pay for our renewal fees, we needed to use at least my card to do that.
So we didn't want to invalidate both of our credit cards
Exactly.
on the same trip before we had even gotten our immigration stuff done. But it turned out I had opened a bank account. I showed you that in a previous episode. So I had that card with me, and we had enough money in that bank account to actually make the purchase. But it was just one of those confusing things. You never know where you stand in Mexico at different times. So they come to the table with the wireless debit machine, credit card machine for us to pay.
Yeah.
And he's holding it up in the air and he's looking everywhere and he's, you know, there isn't a good signal in here. So when it failed, of course, I assumed it's the machine.
That. Yeah.
So then we go to a different part of the restaurant. It fails again. I put my card in, it fails, it fails. And then we go over by the cash and I put it in and it still didn't work. So then I'm starting to think, okay, maybe it's my card. But everything is always so multifaceted. We are just so accustomed to things working
Seamlessly.
in Canada and the US, things you take for granted, that it's always good to have a backup method of paying for something. And I think cash is kind of king in Mexico. So
what we did find out through the bank, though, is when you're using your phone, don't do that. Always put your card in.
the first time you land in a country.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry, I've got
We
the
have
light.
some sun on you.
Yes. I don't know how else to stop that, but
Yeah. So, anyways, we had a good trip. We accomplished what we wanted to, and we now have our residency renewed for 3 more years, which gets us to the 4th year, which is when you become permanent. So we're 1 year into the 4-year journey.
yep.
We have paid the fees for the next 3 years, which, if anyone's curious, is 3 times the annual fee. But at least we don't really have to go back to the immigration office for another 3 years to do any kind of immigration work, with the exception of your quirk,
Yes.
if you elect to do that before we become permanent. So I hope that this information is helpful to people. It was a bit of a circuitous route to us actually being successful this time through.
Yep.
But we definitely wanted to share our experience with you, and maybe you'll get some tips on this and be able to avoid some of the pitfalls that we had this time around.
Well, I think the big thing for me was that you can pay for it if you take the paper to the bank.
Yeah.
We had always been told no in the past with that. So, you know, I guess
That's actually the old way of doing it. So before we got our first temporary residency, you always had to pay at the bank and show up with the piece of paper. They just started the credit card process recently. So you actually went back to the old way of doing it in order to get your card rather than the new way of doing it, which was technology, which did not work.
it happens.
Yeah.
It happens. Everybody was lovely. And like I said, it's very formal in the morning, but it was also nice to see everybody so relaxed actually after 1 o'clock when they were able to get the bulk of their work done. And and seeing the camaraderie and the comradeship between them and people that were still left, you know, trying to get their paperwork done.
So don't forget to subscribe. You're getting very, very good information here. You could save yourself thousands of dollars and rebook the airplane tickets and everything if you just tune in and listen to all the things we do wrong.
Yes, kind of. Except we got lucky with the whole airline tickets, but then we've learned that in the past too. So
that's it for today. We'll see you next time on Wading into Retirement.